Hello and welcome to another episode of Mwalimu Kipepeo. Thanks for joining me. I'm your host, Jasmine Nombwe. Today's episode is a continuation of last week's episode on dealing with grief and loss. This is such a broad topic that requires more time to tackle. This episode is dedicated to a breast cancer warrior that I acquired as a friend 2 years ago after interviewing her on Cancer Day. She was 22 years old at the time, and she really made an impact in my life. Sadly, she lost the battle a few hours ago. Jane Erica Chalo, may you rest in eternal peace. Today's guest is a real reason why I'm here today and also why Mwalimu Kipepeo exists. She has been my encourager, my friend and my supporter from day one. People call her Marion Gishoro, but I call her Mommy. Yes, my mother joins us today to complete our 2-part series on loss and grief. She is a perfect guest for it because she has been my greatest comforter in life, and also because she has done a study and written a research paper on grief and loss. Ladies and gentlemen, I hereby introduce my mother. Hi, Mom. Welcome to my podcast. This is what I usually do. Yeah. But first things first, I'd like to know, before you became a counseling psychologist, how did you handle loss and grief?
Thank you, Jasmine, for inviting me on your platform to share on grief and loss. And this is a subject that is very close to my heart, especially right now, because many people are going through grief and their experiences. There are so many losses right now because of the pandemic. This is a topic that we all need to know about. First question you asked me is, how did you handle grief before I became a counselor? I want to say that before I became a counselor, I did many mistakes like all of us do. Those who do not know how to handle grief or how to handle a loss or how to handle somebody who is grieving. I remember one time going to a funeral, and a friend of mine, a very close friend, had lost a mom. And I hugged her and say, oh, when she was crying, and I'm saying, oh, it's okay, it's okay. I used okay. And she quickly said, no, it's not okay. Many of us use long phrases during a time of grief. We might find ourselves saying, oh, time will heal. Or you may find yourself saying, Vince will always work out for the best. You might find yourself saying, she's not going to hurt anymore. Those are long phrases to people who are hurting. Sometimes it's good to say things like, it is painful. I'm sorry, it is painful for you to lose a loved one. This helps the griever to feel free to describe the pain. You can say you must have been very close to her. The survivor can talk about the relationship. You can say it must be hard to accept. You don't feel you must say something or you must do something. Your presence is enough. Be sure to call or to visit the survivor. No matter how much time has passed since the death, the griever still appreciates knowing you care. Take the initiative. Don't merely say, if there is anything I can do, give me a call. No, make specific offers to help. Each thoughtful gesture keeps the survivor from having to continually reach out for assistance. Help with children and everyday concerns. Help with errands. Answer the phone calls. Do prepare meals, do loudly. All these will help the person feel that you are helping them to grieve. You shouldn't be shielded from grief, but continually, occasionally, they need to break from the sadness at home. They can, help the survivor to with with what they need to do. The other thing is listen, be a listener. A believed person desperately needs a listener who is accepting, supportive, and willing to listen patiently to often repetitive stories. The need to tell the story decreases as healing progresses. And each time the story is told, the finality of death sinks in a little more. When feelings of anger, frustrations, and disappointment, fear, and sadness are expressed, accept those feelings. If the survivor keeps them bottled inside, it will slow the healing process. Allow the expressions of guilt feelings. A natural reaction to hearing someone express guilt is to respond with you must not feel guilty. I'm sure you did everything you need. Don't try to rescue people from their guilt feelings, which are natural and normal during the grief process. What most people actually feel is regret. Guilt implies a purposeful act that intends injury. We feel regret when we wish we had somehow been able to change things. Ask non-reading questions. What would you have done differently? This helps the survivors conclude that they did the best they could. Allow survivors to grieve in their own way. Don't push mourners to get over their loss. If they need to rake leaves or chop wood or release energy and tension, let them. If you want to pore over old pictures or read every book on grief they can find, let them. We all grieve in our own way. Avoid being judgmental. Accept mood swings. Accept good days and bad days for some time. The highs and lows are part of the process. These feelings have been described as waves that sweep in uncontrollably. Gradually, the good days become more frequent and bad ones will occur when a year or more after the death of a loved one. Remember special days and times. Double your efforts to be sensitive to the mourner's needs during difficult times and of the day or the days with special meaning, such as holidays, loved ones' birthdays, and wedding anniversaries and anniversaries of the death. Mark your calendar so you will remember to reach out to the person on or before those special days. Know that recovery takes time. Don't expect the grieving person to be over it within a few weeks. Recovery doesn't happen a day or after the funeral or even 2 months after it has. Many people as many people believe. Sometimes the real grieving is just happening by then. It may be more than a year before you see the result of your caring and support. But when your friend smiles again and feels less pain, the reward is there. If the mourners doesn't seem to be recovering at all, despite your best efforts and passing of time, suggest a professional help to assist in learning new ways of coping. Find out which professionals in your region are experienced in working with the bereaved. Don't assume. all counselors and coaches are trained in this area. Write or verbally share your memories of the one who died. During the first few months after, after death, there is tendency to focus on survivors, while the survivors are focusing on the one who died. By relating your memories of the deceased, you are offering a precious moment for the grieving person. Your love and concerns are shown not only in what you share, but in the fact that you took time to do so. Know that your friend will always remember his or her loved one for the rest of the survivor's life. Tears may be shed when a special memory is recalled. Your friend is who he or she is today because of having loved that person. Denying the deceased past existence denies a part of your friend. Love your friend's past as well as his or her present.
What are the stages of dealing with loss and grief? I hear there are stages. I don't know how many they are, but what are they? Please just take us through that.
There are 5 stages of dealing with loss. The first one is denial. Most people first respond to a traumatic event with no, 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 no. It can't happen. This can last from a day to a week or even longer in some cases. And many people get fixated in denial. And you can find if somebody gets into denial and get fixated in denial, they the healing process can take very long, because you find that that person is still in denial. They think that the person who died will come back, or will one day just walk back home, you know. And this is a stage that many people will get fixated or get stuck. Then there is anger. Anger is a normal response to accepting the reality of an event. Anger isn't fair. It is Life isn't fair. It isn't equal, and sometimes bad things do happen to good people for no good reason. So you find somebody gets angry, and sometimes they get angry with the hospital, they get angry with themselves, they get angry with the person who delivered the message. They get angry in many ways. They get angry even with the person who died. Then there is bargaining. Once people realize that anger doesn't change the circumstances, they try all forms of bargaining. I will promise I will never again take this person to this hospital. I'll never again take a loved one to a certain place. I'll never again do this. That is bargaining. You are bargaining. It's a process. Unfortunately, during this stage, some people feel guilty even when they had absolutely nothing to do with what happened. They may have a distorted idea that by feeling bad, they can undo what happened. Then we get to depression. This is much different from the sadness that some people feel without knowing the reason. People for whom the depression is an ongoing process need to get help. People who are depressed as the result of a loss need to know that it is a normal response and part of the process of healing. I have known people who have actually wondered what was wrong with them when they were still having problems a few weeks after the death of a parent. Grief is a normal reaction. When a person have gone through all the previous stages, they are likely to arrive to a point of resolution. But if they have skipped any stage, they may prolong the process. A person doesn't go from denial to acceptance overnight or reach acceptance by avoiding any of the stages. it is also important to note that people may not go through the stages in a neat, orderly fashion. Some people report cycling through all the stages a number of times. And stages may interchange each other. So this is what we call stages of dealing with loss, and we all go through that.
Thank you, Mom, for taking us through those steps of loss and grief. But now, after that is done, how do I know that I have healed?
I can say that it takes time, especially depending on how attached one has been with a person. And it differs from the attachment. The attachment. Some people take very, very long to heal. It can take even 5 years. It can take 20 years. It can take a long time. And especially, as I had said earlier, if you enter into a stage of you get stagnated in denial, and the process of healing is slowed down, you can get stagnated. I mean, you can get fixated, but also you can get healed. People get healed. And I get to know that somebody is healing or has healed the moment they are able to share the story without tearing, without having a feeling of hopelessness, they are able to cope with the absence of that person. They are able to accept the situation and move on. This may take time, but there is hope. There is always some hope that healing is taking place. And one time, one will be able to cope without the loved one that has gone or the loved one that has died.
So, in case anyone needs some counseling sessions from you, where can they reach you?
If you want to reach me, I want to give you my contact. It's 0722 590 269. 0722 590 269. I want to thank you for listening to me. Thank you for having me on board. God bless you.
I'll tell you a long story about a short war that occurred on August 27th, 1896. This is the little-known Anglo-Zanzibar War, which is generally considered to be the shortest war in history, lasting for a grand total of 38 minutes. Well, let me break it down for you. The immediate cause of the war was the death of the Sultan of Zanzibar, Hamoud bin Thuwaini, on the 25th of August. His nephew, Khalid bin Bargash, seized power, but he was regarded by the British as far too independent. They preferred Hamoud bin Mohammed. In the best tradition of gunboat diplomacy, a 1-hour ultimatum was issued. At exactly 9 a.m. following that ultimatum, 5 ships of the Royal Navy began a bombardment of the Royal Palace and harem in Zanzibar. Over 500 defenders died, compared to 1 British Marine who was injured in that war. In the heat of the war, Khalid bin Bargash fled the palace seeking safety in the German consulate, from which he was quickly and in secret shipped out of the country. Order was restored, and Britain's preferred ruler Hamoud bin Mohammed was installed as Sultan of Zanzibar, where he ruled with British assistance until his death in 1902. Now you know. I'm Jasmine Wamburi, and you've been listening to Mwalimu Kipepeo, the podcast. You can follow Mwalimu Kipepeo on Facebook If you haven't yet, please rate and review this podcast. Join me next week for another episode of Mwalimu Kipepeo. Thank you for listening.